and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I am going to be learning about the Penny Farthing. Apparently, it was the sketchiest bicycle ever made. This is from Berm Peak. I know I've done a video from them before, but I don't remember if it was on this channel or the Reacts channel elsewhere. Either way, we're learning about the Penny Farthing today. I don't know much about it, except it's the one with the giant wheel in the front and the little wheel in the back. And it's old. Was it the first bike? I don't know, but I guess we'll find out perhaps in this. So let's begin.
Over a century ago, this bicycle would have been considered very old. This Wolf American was made in 1897, and despite that fact, it looks pretty much exactly like the bicycles of today.
I mean, less gears and stuff, but like 1897. I don't know when I thought that they were made, but
all the parts are there. You got your bottom bracket,
I mean,
your
I guess
chain,
don't
your front
break
sprocket,
what ain't broke.
sprocket.
Don't fix what ain't
Aside
broke,
from
right?
minor differences like wooden rims, we haven't had to change very much on bicycles since. Yet when this bike was sold, it would have been referred to as a safety bicycle. Usually when something's called that, its predecessor was sketchy.
I mean, also though, I just kind of, it feels a little bit like bullying. Like if you were used to the other bike and then like someone's getting, oh, you got a safety bike? Baby's got a safety bike. Like it just feels a little rude. Like just a little bit.
Well, that would be this, the high wheel,
that is
otherwise
so
known
crazy
as the
though.
Penny Farthing.
Look how big that wheel is on this man. How do you even get up on that thing? I mean, I guess there's like that little rut sticking out or something, but like, dang.
Rose to prominence in the 1860s, and yes, it was so sketchy that its successor was called the safety bicycle, and today we're going to talk all about it.
Okay.
Now, this particular bicycle does resemble what you would have seen in the 1880s, although it is a reproduction made in the 1960s. But aside from the headset and a few other odds and ends, this is mostly what it would have looked like, right down to the solid rubber tires. Today I want to show you all about the Penny Farthing. I want to ride one, but this one's too big for me to ride. And
yeah, it's as tall as you are, my man. Like, that's nuts. It reminds me of basically every horse I've ever ridden, all of which were just massive. The biggest horse I ever rode was 17 hands high. And I mean, I'm like, my God, I could practically walk underneath it. Like, it was huge, like under its belly. It was like, it was so big. Not quite, but like it. And then my friend's trying to get me to like try and get on without the block. And I was like, girl, my foot doesn't, like, my foot is gotta go up here. This is where the stirrup is. What are you talking about? Like, what? It goes up to my nose. No.
Let me show you mine.
Oh, it's dinky.
So this is my Penny Farthing, and as you can see, it's more my size, which is important because your inseam places a hard limit on the diameter of the wheel. For example, Sam Pilgrim could ride a much bigger high wheel than I can. This is also completely modernized. It has pneumatic tires, a welded frame,
I feel like
much better bearings, and it's also lighter and more durable. It's also a heck of a lot cheaper. Back in the 1860s, a Penny Farthing would have cost you about $5 grand if we adjust for inflation.
Oh my God.
Many times what a horse would have cost back then. And this provides nowhere near the utility of a horse. A horse can pull a cart, can navigate any type of terrain. A Penny Farthing could kind of be used for recreation or to get around flat city streets.
It is also kind of funny that if it was that expensive and they called it a Penny Farthing, it would be like calling a Cybertruck a penny nickel or something, or a nickel dime. Like, it's not. Why would they do that? Why would they make something so expensive and just be like, hey, these are the two cheapest bits of money we've currently got that we use. Let's call it after the cheap stuff. Oh my gosh. And apparently it's sketchy, so I'm more like a Cybertruck than I thought.
And that's mainly what they were used for back then. It was a recreational activity for the wealthy. These would have been handmade, sometimes specific to the size of the rider, because as I said, they're not all that adjustable. Yes, there were other velocipedes that preceded the penny farthing, none of them that reached the prominence that this did.
But they all look a little bit more normal. They look like more like what, like why did they change it to have the big wheel?
In fact, they called this an ordinary bicycle in its heyday. Actually, ordinary bicycle, because it wasn't until after the safety bicycle had largely replaced the penny farthing that bicycle journalists and enthusiasts needed a term to differentiate it, and so they called it the high wheel or the penny farthing. Now, even if the penny farthing would have been made
still weird, why did they call it that?
In those days, there are a lot of reasons to assume that it would not have grown in popularity the way the safety bicycle did.
Like, even if people could afford it, like, which they couldn't because it cost them more than a freaking horse. Okay. It still wouldn't, okay, he's saying it still wouldn't have been that popular. Okay.
For one, you wouldn't have seen a lot of women riding these because they always had skirts on and they would have been up high and...
That would be interesting. Like, okay.
I needn't explain the rest. The skirt could also get wrapped up in the front wheel, which would be bad. Not only that, but all of these were fixed gear. They didn't have brakes, and the crankset just moves with the wheel. And so if you wanted to slow down, you would put back pressure on the pedals like you would on a fixed gear or track bike. Except on a penny farthing, if you put too much back pressure on the pedals, it'll actually lift the back end up and send you over the handlebars, and then you break your collarbone and get surgery while biting down on a block of wood because it was the 1800s.
Yeah. I appreciate his commitment to the bit, though. Like, yep, sure, I'll go head over heels on the bike. Alrighty. Ugh, scary. No, thank you. Okay. Yeah, terrifying. You have to be, how do you even, I guess, like, you have to practice it, but, like, where? How do you practice that without injuring yourself? Like, to get just the right amount of back pressure?
And so rather than trying to stop the thing...
I kind of see why he keeps stopping on the bench, you know? Like, I'm just going to put my foot down on something a little high.
You'd be better off attempting an evasive maneuver on the least maneuverable bike ever made.
Great.
As you steer, your legs have to move with the crankset. And so it's not like you can turn really sharp on this thing. Now, there are people in modern times that race these. And those races are gnarly. I mean...
Oh my God, that was very... No thanks. Just roll right over him. Like, it looked like you kind of thought maybe he could slide around like you could on a regular bike, but turns out no.
Even if they put brakes on these, you'd either have a rear brake that did nothing or a front brake that made the bike flip over forwards. Even in the 1800s, when a fish hook was a suitable children's toy, people were like, I'm not getting on that thing.
Oh my God, I love the 1800s shade. Like, let's keep them coming.
Sketchiness aside, the penny farthing's actually very interesting, and there are a few things about its construction that make it better than a lot of modern bikes. Let's start with the similarities between the penny farthing and the unicycle. So I've never done a deep dive into unicycles. I have no idea who invented them, but I would imagine they took the fork out of a penny farthing and stuck a seat on top of it, because that's pretty much all a unicycle is.
I mean, that honestly tracks. Like, it was in Detroit, and somebody stole the back wheel and left him just with the front wheel, and let's just move the seat over, I guess.
The wheel on both a unicycle or a penny farthing use exactly the same hub, and then the cranks and pedals are attached to it. That's the entire extent of the drivetrain. There's no chain, there's no sprocket, there's no freewheel. It's like pretty much the most reliable cycling apparatus you can make.
It's just a wheel.
Besides a unicycle. Now, not only is this more mechanically sound than a safety bicycle, but it's also got a huge wheel, which would have soaked up a lot of the bumps.
All right, that's nice too. I was just thinking, it's like the chains and stuff. I have like a nasty scar still on my leg from when I was learning how to ride a two-wheeler, from when I was like 7 and like learning how to do that. And I fell, like, got my leg caught in the chain, and it was still like going. I still use that. I like the chain can really mess you up.
The bad roads that they had back in the 1800s, and that was one of the main benefits of the penny farthing when it rose to popularity, was that big wheel size. Its predecessor, the bone shaker, They had these big adult balance bikes called dandy horses. Those would have only been good on the...
so scary looking. Like, look how, like, those wheels do not look like they would do anything at all to help you not be in pain the whole time you're riding that. That explains this man's face, you know? This guy right here. He looks a little jokery, honestly, and I mean, I guess this is kind of like those bikes that's like you just kind of walk them and it's a little bit faster than maybe a little bit faster. I don't know. The one guy just looks tired, and then the other guy looks kind of crazed.
Smoothest.
There's a manic gleam in his eye.
It wasn't until much later on that you started seeing pneumatic tires, which were a huge benefit in terms of ride quality. Despite the benefits of that larger wheel size, roads back then were pretty bad, and so you would have taken whatever comfort you could get. That was pretty much only in the saddle. The saddles were flexy, they had springs in the rear, and some of them are quite beautiful. Again, everything back then was kind of made by hand in a shop.
Well, that is pretty cool.
And so it had character, and it was just cool.
The twists.
And so as these rose in popularity, and you kind of saw them around in every city, it became more apparent to the general public what the benefits were. I mean, you could cover a ton of ground, you didn't have to feed it. It must have looked like a lot of fun. And so when a safer, more practical alternative
and cheaper
was introduced, the safety bicycle,
I imagine.
It's pretty obvious why it just blew up and pretty much took over everything.
I can
but
see
back
that.
in the Penny Farthing's heyday, this is what bicycle enthusiasts considered an ordinary bicycle. This was what they were used to. And when the safety bicycle was invented, I wish I could go back to that year and look at the pink bike comments. They're actually calling it a safety bicycle? Yeah, let's just sterilize everything. What's next? They're gonna put brakes on it? Now this thing is seriously
My joke was a little
fun.
different,
Like, I really enjoy riding.
It's still bullying.
It's a completely different feeling. Definitely a novelty. And I have shown you all my novelty bikes in a different video. The swing bike, the tall bike, the half bike. This is another one I like riding, and I can't believe I never had one sooner. I mean, it's really a different feeling. Now, one benefit of this Penny Farthing, without question, it is supremely comfortable.
Yeah.
I could do this
I mean,
all day.
anything would be better than what the other ones were about. Like, anything would be better than that.
It doesn't take any energy. The seat's really comfortable. You're sort of reclined. If I were relying on this to get to work and I had to go up and down hills and over terrible roads and avoiding people, I suspect it would lose its novelty fairly quickly. Yeah, these are pretty bad for climbing hills, even really small hills. You can tell by how it is. You're actually pushing the wheel in the direction that you are pedaling.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
You pedal with your right foot and you are moving the wheel left. You pedal with your left foot and you're moving the wheel right, and to counteract it, you're pulling on the handlebars. You can knock them right out of alignment.
No thanks.
I don't know if that's a problem unique to my Penny Farthing, but quill stems are easy to knock out of alignment, and back in the 1800s, this wasn't even as advanced. As for its performance on mountain bike trails, ooh, okay. The 32-inch wheel is actually kind of good, but there's this little tiny wheel in the back.
Yeah?
Oh, whoa. Not nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
No, this is stressful though. No, tree!
Oh, no prayer. Okay.
Oh no. No, no, no.
All right, let's see if I can get up enough momentum.
Why do you want more momentum? Less momentum.
Ugh. So if for whatever
Didn't like that. That was too.
Nope.
Nope. That was too real. That was too real. That was scary. Oh, especially because he was like, it doesn't have brakes and you can't maneuver it. So now we're gonna go on a mountain bike where like all the trees and like rocks and dude, why would you do this to yourself on that bike? I've only been mountain biking like once, and it was scary with the bike that was meant for that.
Use bikes from my freak bike fleet to get to work. This would actually rank below several other bikes. Even for a novelty bike, it's impractical. Yet, at one point in history, this was the predominant means of two-wheeled human-powered transportation. And because many people did partake in
Very
cycling
specific.
back then, they were passionate about it, an entire industry did spring up around it, and those were the shops that eventually built and serviced the safety bicycles that became much more popular and practical later on.
It just makes more
I
sense
want to
to
give a
have
special thanks
similar
to
sized
Ralph and the Little
wheels.
Congress Bicycle Museum in Tennessee.
Congress.
They have completely original
Ooh.
examples like this Wolf American and
Wow.
expertly restored down to the thread count examples like this Hopalong Cassidy
That's
and many more.
cool.
I'll leave the information below. I hope you found this
That is
video
pretty
useful
cool.
and informative, and if you didn't, I hope you were at least entertained. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
it's interesting that anytime you see
still talking.
clips of the Penny Farthing, you hear music like this, which was made like 50 years after
Yeah,
its
sounds
heyday.
1920s-y.
The Penny Farthing is truly ancient. It was made before it was frowned upon to smoke cigarettes while teaching kindergarten. Actually, it was made shortly after kindergarten was invented.
Dang. Okay.
Over a
I like the glamour shots that he used throughout of this Penny Farthing bicycle that he's got. Yeah, no, that is not a bike you could pay me to get on, I don't think. I think that's a bike that I would stay far away from. And if I saw one on the street, I would try and not be on the same side of the street. It looks a little sketchy. I don't know. Like, he's right. He said it was sketchy. I mean, I've been knocked by regular bikes because when people decide to ride on the sidewalk, even though they shouldn't be riding on the sidewalk, because there's a bike lane, and I have to leave my restaurant with food in my hands, and someone comes flying by with freaking on a bike. I'm like, anyway. I don't have any beef with bikers. No beef with bikers from me. All normal. Anyway. That was okay. That was interesting. I do feel like I did learn some things about the Penny Farthing that I did not know before, like how old it was, for instance. I knew it was old. I kind of just never really thought about what that meant. And I also didn't realize just when the because I guess I did sort of think about it sort of Victorian. So like I guess in the 1800s, I wasn't thinking that there was normal bikes. I was thinking that up through the 20s even penny farthings were a thing. So I'm not sure why that's sort of what was in my head, but it was. So I'm glad I learned something today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.